The billionaire froze so suddenly that even the photographers stopped taking pictures. Her daughter, a little girl who had spent every day of her 9 years in complete silence, suddenly smiled with a look no one had ever seen before. She wasn't reacting to wealth, fame, or another expensive medical breakthrough. She was staring at a weathered single father standing beside an old wooden bench in the middle of a bright community park, holding something so simple that everyone else had overlooked it. In that unforgettable moment, a family carrying every luxury imaginable realized they had been searching for hope in all the wrong places. Before we continue this emotional journey, if you believe kindness, forgiveness, hope, and second chances can change lives, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to our channel. By becoming part of our community, you help more inspiring stories reach people who need them the most. Celeste Harrington had built one of Europe's fastest-growing technology companies from almost nothing. Financial magazines called her unstoppable. Investors admired her fearless decisions. Reporters followed every public appearance. Yet behind every smiling magazine cover was a mother carrying a heartbreak no amount of money could erase. Her daughter, Elodie, had been born profoundly deaf. Specialists from London, Toronto, Boston, and Zurich had offered every available treatment, evaluation, and experimental therapy. Some improved communication. None restored hearing. Celeste loved her daughter without condition, but deep inside she struggled with guilt she never deserved. She often wondered whether she had spent too much time building a business and too little time simply embracing the beautiful child standing in front of her exactly as she was. Elodie never considered herself broken. She experienced the world differently. She watched sunlight dance across lakes, noticed tiny butterflies before adults saw them, and could read emotions from a person's face with astonishing accuracy. She communicated through sign language, expressive smiles, careful drawings, and gentle hugs. Still, she sensed the sadness in adults whenever they looked at her. She wished they would stop hoping she would become someone else and simply celebrate who she already was. On the other side of the city lived Garrett Mercer, a former Navy SEAL who had quietly left military life after years of dangerous deployments. He never talked about medals or missions. He spoke instead about responsibility, compassion, and keeping promises. After losing his wife to a sudden illness several years earlier, Garrett devoted himself to raising his cheerful 7-year-old daughter, Maisie. Their home was modest, their savings were limited, and every dollar mattered. Garrett repaired furniture during the day, volunteered at the local veteran center during weekends, and spent every free afternoon helping children at the neighborhood community park build handmade kites, wooden toys, and simple science projects. One sunny Saturday morning, the park hosted a family charity event supporting inclusive education programs. Celeste attended because her company had sponsored the event. Cameras followed her everywhere. Elodie walked beside her, politely smiling whenever someone waved, though she clearly preferred watching squirrels climb oak trees rather than standing in front of flashing cameras. Across the lawn, Garrett had arranged a small table filled with handcrafted objects made from reclaimed wood, polished stones, colorful ribbons, tuning forks, smooth metal bowls, and handmade vibration boards. There was no flashy sign above the table. Instead, a handwritten note simply read that every child experiences the world differently and that curiosity belongs to everyone. Most visitors walked past without stopping. Garrett didn't mind. He had learned long ago that meaningful things rarely attracted crowds immediately. As Elodie wandered farther across the grass, she noticed a polished wooden box resting beside Garrett's table. Curious, she looked at him. Garrett smiled warmly without speaking. He gently placed the box on the ground, opened it, and revealed an unusual handcrafted instrument. It wasn't designed to create loud sounds. Instead, it produced deep, rich vibrations that traveled through wood into anyone resting their hands upon it. Garrett slowly invited Elodie to place both palms on the smooth surface. She hesitated only briefly. The instant Garrett activated the instrument, tiny vibrations flowed through the wood. Elodie's eyes widened. She wasn't hearing music in the traditional sense. She was feeling rhythm traveling through her fingertips, wrists, and arms. Garrett adjusted different frequencies, creating patterns that felt like gentle waves, playful footsteps, and steady heartbeats. For the first time, someone had introduced music to her world without trying to force her into someone else's. Celeste watched from several yards away. Tears filled her eyes. Doctors had spent years trying to restore hearing. This stranger had simply asked how her daughter already experienced life. Elodie laughed silently, her shoulders shaking with joy as she explored each new rhythm through touch. Garrett showed her how different wooden surfaces changed the sensation, how thicker boards created slower pulses while thinner pieces produced lighter patterns. He never acted as though he was fixing her. He was simply sharing another doorway into beauty. When Celeste approached, Garrett greeted her with quiet respect but no recognition of her celebrity status. He didn't know who she was, and honestly, it made no difference to him. He introduced himself as a carpenter, veteran, and father who enjoyed building tactile learning tools for children with different sensory experiences. Celeste admitted she had never seen Elodie respond like this before. Garrett gently explained that his late wife had been an occupational therapist who believed every child deserved environments designed around their strengths instead of their limitations. Before her passing, she had filled countless notebooks with ideas for tactile learning, vibration-based art, and inclusive play. Garrett had spent years bringing those sketches to life in her memory. Celeste asked whether she could purchase the instrument. Garrett politely declined. He explained that it wasn't for sale because every version needed to be built specifically for the child using it. Money, he said through a kind smile, could buy materials, but understanding required time. Those words lingered in Celeste's mind long after the charity event ended. Instead of sending assistants or lawyers, she returned alone with Elodie the following week. Then again. Then again. Each bright afternoon became another lesson, not just for Elodie, but for Celeste herself. Garrett introduced balance boards that transformed movement into vibrations. Wooden pathways that changed texture beneath bare feet. Sunlit art stations where colorful sand reflected light in mesmerizing patterns. Gardens filled with fragrant herbs that encouraged children to explore through smell, touch, and sight rather than hearing alone. Elodie flourished. She became more confident, more expressive, and happier than ever. For the first time since infancy, Celeste stopped measuring progress by medical reports. She started measuring it by smiles. News of Garrett's volunteer work slowly spread. Families from nearby towns began visiting the park. Children with different abilities discovered activities designed around what they could do instead of what they couldn't. Still, the community center struggled financially. The aging building leaked whenever heavy rain passed through during daylight storms. Equipment wore out. Volunteers covered expenses from their own pockets. Garrett never complained. Helping children mattered more than comfort. One afternoon Celeste quietly reviewed the center's financial records. She was stunned. A place transforming hundreds of young lives operated on less money each year than one executive conference at her corporation. She called a board meeting. Executives expected another investment announcement. Instead, Celeste presented a completely different proposal. Rather than funding another luxury headquarters, the company would establish inclusive discovery centers across the country, modeled after Garrett's approach. Engineers, educators, therapists, artists, veterans, and families would work together to create environments where children explored through every sense available to them. Some investors objected. They questioned profitability. Celeste answered with calm certainty. Not every investment should begin with a spreadsheet. Some begin with humanity. The proposal passed. Construction began under clear blue skies several months later. Garrett insisted that every center remain welcoming regardless of income. No child would ever be turned away because their family couldn't pay. Celeste agreed without hesitation. As the first center opened, families filled every corner of the building. Children laughed, painted, climbed, explored textured walls, created vibration art, and discovered new ways of communicating with one another. Parents who had once felt isolated found friendships they never expected. Elodie proudly welcomed each visitor using sign language and expressive gestures, helping new children feel comfortable from the moment they arrived. She no longer saw herself as the girl everyone wanted to change. She had become someone helping others feel accepted exactly as they were. Garrett watched quietly from a sunny courtyard, remembering his wife. Everything she had imagined in faded notebook pages now existed in real life, touching thousands of families. One afternoon, a journalist asked Celeste what the most valuable investment of her career had been. Many expected her to name a billion-dollar acquisition. Instead, she smiled toward Garrett and Elodie working together beneath warm afternoon sunlight. She answered that the greatest investment she had ever made was learning to stop asking how to change her daughter and start asking how to understand her. That single change had transformed an entire community. Months later, children from every background visited the growing network of Discovery Centers. Some were deaf. Some were blind. Some had autism. Others had no disabilities at all. They learned side by side, proving that inclusion benefits everyone, not only those who need accommodations. Friendships formed naturally. Differences became ordinary. Compassion became contagious. Before we reach the end of this journey, leave a meaningful comment sharing one way kindness or understanding has changed your life, or tell us about someone who accepted you exactly as you are. Your story may become the encouragement someone else needs today. As the sun shone brightly across the playground one peaceful afternoon, Elodie rested both hands once more on Garrett's newest handcrafted vibration instrument. She closed her eyes and smiled with complete contentment. She still experienced the world through silence, but it was no longer a silence filled with pity or impossible expectations. It was a silence rich with love, connection, discovery, and belonging. Celeste finally understood that miracles do not always arrive by changing who we are. Sometimes they arrive by changing how we love, how we listen, and how we choose to see one another. Garrett had never restored Elodie's hearing, and he never claimed he could. What he restored was something far more precious, a family's hope, a mother's peace, and a little girl's confidence that she had always been wonderfully enough. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. May we continue building a community where every person is valued, every child is encouraged, and every act of kindness reminds us that the greatest transformations begin not with changing people, but with understanding them.